Welcome, everybody. We are here for 2.0 of the NAR settlement discussion. And I call it 2.0, hoping I almost actually titled it NAR settlement discussion final, because I am very hopeful that this is the last time that we have to talk about the NAR settlement challenges. And so I've got some great ways to help you win through it. I've got some tactics I'm going to share with you. I've got some new scripts I'm going to share with you. And I see everyone already starting to comment in the chat, which is great. If you could do me a favor, before you hit send on your comment, change it to everyone so that everyone can see where you're joining us from. So thanks for waking up with us all over the US. And I know we've got several on from Canada as well. So yeah, when you're commenting today, it defaults to hosts and panelists. Just change that to everyone so that everyone can see where you're joining us from. And I know several of you are going to end up listening to this later on the podcast, or perhaps you're watching this on YouTube, and we'd love to see where you're watching is from as well. So add that to the comments on YouTube for those that end up watching this on YouTube. Well, I'm super excited to be with you guys. As I mentioned, I hope it's one of the last times we're talking about the NAR settlement, because we've been to work with the NAR settlement. Believe it or not, actually, our MLS went early on the NAR settlement, July 17th. We've had to behave with the changes. And of course, most recently this weekend, we had to, on July 17th, we had to behave with the changes of no compensation in the MLS since the 17th of July. So we've got a good just over a month of best practices that we've learned from. And of course, I'm going to share with you some of those today. And also this weekend, the change went into effect for everyone on the buyer contract before a showing, or a showing agreement, or buyer rep agreement, or whatever you want to call it, first showing agreement, or non-exclusive buyer agency. There's probably 50 different names for it. That, of course, went into effect this weekend, and I want to share with you some of our experiences from that. So I'm super excited to be with you guys, although I'm hoping this is one of the last times we have to cover this topic, because it's time to get back to work, and it's time for us to stop reading the headlines and hearing all about the changes. We know what the changes are. Let's just go get after them and make the best with them. All right. So first things first, for those that are joining us, my first timers, do me a favor in the chat. Again, change it to everyone. Let me know where my first timers are at. If you're a first timer to a Glover U webinar, love seeing our first timers on, throw that in the chat. First timer, just put first timer, city and state, or city and province. Let us know if you're a first timer in the chat. We love seeing all of our first timers. Again, make sure you change your where it says to hosts and panelists, drop that down and change that to everyone. Well, I have your attention in the beginning. I want to make sure everyone's got the workbook. Okay, you're going to need this workbook. This is not maybe like some of the other workbooks from our other webinars where they're blank. And we do that because we want you to take notes. Although I do have some blank pages in here. All of the latest and greatest NAR dialogues are in here, and I need you to have those. So I'm going to have them drop that in the chat. There it is for you. They'll probably drop it a few times throughout the session early on. Thanks for joining us, South Florida. I've been spending quite a bit of time there. In fact, I'll be there 2 days this week doing the sales rocket. Okay. So make sure you have the workbook, got that. For those that are not familiar, for my first timers, Jeff Glover from Detroit, Michigan. I've been listing and selling real estate now for 22 years. In addition to listing and selling real estate, of course, we lead a great team here in the state of Michigan. We've been the #1 home selling team for 10 out of the last 11 years. That's of all brands, all brokerage, all brands. And I think the biggest thing is that you need to know, if you're a first timer, is I'm in the trenches with you. All right. A lot of people are wondering, Jeff, how did you come up with these scripts? You know, even I was looking at it today, our last NAR dialogue webinar was on March the 26th. Okay, they announced the changes on March 18th. We had a webinar with all the scripts written within 1 week. So people ask, well, how did you have that? Well, because in that first week, because I go on appointments with sellers like you do, because I go on appointments with buyers like you do, I had already been getting questions because it was all in the media. As you can see, the media is starting to pick it up again, which is something I predicted back in that video as well. It's fascinating to see some of the things that we talked about and predicted in that video starting to happen. Okay, so this is for my first timers especially, but for those of you that are not taking advantage of it, first things first, without question, all right? I want to make sure you're taking advantage of the daily message. I've been writing a message every day. Not all of them have been NAR settlement related because, of course, there's other things that are important in our real estate business. But I've been giving you tips and ideas and strategies along the way every single day. And so if you aren't currently getting the daily message, I want to share with you how to do so. This is for, especially for my leaders on as well. Take advantage of these daily messages. We have brokerages and teams across the country that download these messages and share them in their sales meetings, or they turn them into training topics. So I'll show you how to do it. Super simple. For those of you that already get the daily message, thank you for doing so. Hopefully you're getting some value from those. And just sit tight with me for like 60 seconds while I explain how they get the daily message for those that don't have it. So go ahead and open up your text messages. The phone number is 55444. Open up your text message and put in the number 55444. And you're going to type the word morning, MORNING, to 55444. Hit send. And just like that, it's going to ask you your first name, your last name, your email, and you're going to be signed up for the daily messages. All right. Every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm writing a message specifically designed to help you list and sell more homes, or to help your people list and sell more homes. Now, when you download the daily message, all right, it's going to give you a link to our Glover U app. Every single one of you are going to want to have the Glover U app because there's a couple resources that are being uploaded as we speak to that app. All right. We upload our resources to the app first before we put them anywhere. In fact, there's some resources that people pay for on our website. I don't know why they do that, because they can get them for free in the app. So when you text the word morning to 55444, it's going to give you the link to the app. Make sure you get that on your phone. If you already get the daily message, but you don't have the app, just search the Glover U app in your app store. All right. Wherever you go to download your apps, either Google Play or wherever you iPhone people go. Sorry, I know I'm an Android guy. Okay. Don't make fun of me. I probably lost, 10% of our attendees with that. Anyways, make sure you get your hands on our app, because there's a couple new resources that I'm going to share today that are being uploaded to the app. I mean, literally, we waited until this webinar to put them in the app. All right. So you're going to want to have the app. Go ahead and get it. Search Glover U in your app store. Last but not least, okay, videos like this, videos from our events, we're putting more emphasis and effort into our YouTube channel than ever before. All right. I know a lot of people like listening to podcasts, and many of you might be listening to this. Well, of course, if you're watching this right now, you're watching it live, but several of you will end up listening to this later on the podcast. And I know a lot of you also like having the video to go along with it. So if you open up your phone to your YouTube app, all right, my marketing department has instructed me to make sure everyone knows how to subscribe so they get our stuff for free. So go ahead and open up your YouTube app, and you're going to search. Okay, there's a little magnifying glass, top right-hand corner. You're going to search Glover space, the letter U. Pretty simple. You're going to see the option to subscribe. Okay, it's right there at the top. Just hit subscribe. And every time we upload a video, like, listen, the last one, I mean, I'm seeing some great videos in here: building an empire, how to create your unreal life, gaining your audience on social media. There's all sorts of free content on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. Last but not least, if you want to follow me, you may do so at Realtor Jeff Glover. That's at Realtor Jeff Glover on Facebook and Instagram. I have people ask me all the time, Jeff, why isn't it like trainer or coach or authority or whatever? Because at the end of the day, I'm one of you. All right. That's probably why Glover U right now is the fastest growing training and coaching organization on the planet. We have coaching clients in literally every single state in the US and almost every single province in Canada now. We have coaches from all different brokerages represented. We are a broker agnostic organization. So we have agents from Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Remax, EXP, Real, Fathom, LPT. I mean, whatever, any independent out there, every single company is represented when you get the chance to come check out our audience. And I believe the reason why we're growing at the rate we're growing at is because I'm in it with you. I know what you're going through. Just to give you an idea, in the last decade, the last 10 years, I have personally averaged, not including our team, I have personally averaged 100 transactions a year over the last decade. All right. I'm going on listing appointments right now, buyer appointments right now. For me, a bad month is like 5 or 6 listings. A good month is 7 to 10 right now. Why is that? Well, because I have to stay in the trenches in order to keep you sharp and ahead of your competition. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I want to share with you some stories or some things that happened this weekend. So we had a meeting with our team, and I asked them, okay, we had an open forum. All right. I shared some of the experiences that I had. They had shared some of the experiences they had. We did this yesterday, and I want to share with you a handful of them that we've experienced so far. So number one, this weekend, all right, meaning like Saturday since the change was official, and Sunday and Monday. By the way, this is a 75-minute webinar, so hopefully you planned on until 12:15 Eastern today. So this weekend, we had buyers not sign with us and move on, and we had buyers sign with us to see homes happily. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. Who cares? This past weekend, since the change, we had a couple buyers tell us, yeah, we're not comfortable signing anything. And therefore, we weren't able to get the appointment. We weren't able to get the relationship. On the other side of that, we had buyers that came to us and said, hey, we understand there's this new change or whatever. Is this true? Do we have to sign something to see us? Yep, that's true. Okay, where do I sign? I want to go see houses. You're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the early phase of this, if you will, there's going to be a lot of buyers who are skeptical about you presenting to them this idea that they have to sign an agreement with you. And so their gut reaction is going to be to get a second opinion. Well, part of getting a second opinion might be, you know what, hold off on that showing right now. I'll get back to you. Okay, we know what that's like. If you've been listing and selling for more than a few days, you know that means you're about to get ghosted. All right, when they say hold off on that, I'll get back to you, that means they're checking around. So buyers are going to be skeptical because they don't all watch the news. They don't all know about the change. And even if they do watch the news, they don't know how it really impacts them. So early on, we have absolutely lost a few buyers because of this change, without question. Early on, we have gained a few buyers because of this change, without question. Here's what I know in 22 years of doing this, 21 of those in leadership and sales, 22 of them in sales, is this. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Sometimes it's going to work in your favor. Sometimes it's not. It's okay. Get over it. Move on. We're going to experience some of that early on in this change. Number two, here's what happened since Saturday. We had every seller understanding the value in agreeing to work with buyers by way of concessions or buyer agent commissions with no problems. Now watch this. Our MLS and just over half of the MLSs, or probably closer to 60% of the MLSs in the United States, are allowing agents to publish concessions on the MLS, including ours. Our MLS does as well. So we had every, not 99%, not 95%, not 91%, every seller we have spoken to since the change. Again, it's allowed in our MLS. Okay, we'll get to what you do in your MLS if it's not allowed. We had every seller understanding the value in agreeing to work with buyers by way of concessions or buyer agent commissions with no problem. Now, how did we get 100% to be in agreement? I'm going to share that with you. It's part of our scripts during this webinar. One thing we're not going to talk during this webinar is there's some brokerages that are saying, yes, you should find a way to offer concessions and commissions. There's some brokerages saying, no, you should not offer agent commissions or agent concessions. We're not going to get into what your brokerage should do, although I'll share with you our position on that and why we believe what we believe. Number three, we had offers accepted with the seller agreeing to, again, this is all since Saturday. All right. Just to give you an idea, we have about 45 full-time agents. We do as a team about 1,000 transactions a year. So I believe since Saturday, we've probably taken 15 listings. We've probably put 10 or 12 buyers under contract. So this is a meeting we had with our team yesterday. Again, we had offers accepted with the seller agreeing to compensate a buyer's agent. And in only one occasion, did we have a buyer who's going to pay the difference between what was negotiated and what was on their contract with us, and they fully understood that? Let me repeat that. We had offers accepted since Saturday with the seller agreeing to compensate a buyer's agent, and in only one occasion did we have a buyer who's going to pay the difference between what was negotiated and what was on their buyer contract, and they fully understood that. We covered this in 1.0. You knew that this was coming. You're going to have some buyers that are going to be forced to pay the difference. We only had one. With all the buyers that we talked to, with all the homes that we show, with all the contracts we wrote, we only had one. And by the way, that is one since July of this year, the 17th, because our commission's been removed from the MLS since the 17th of July. All right, we've had one occasion where a buyer had to pay the difference so far. Some of you may have a different experience than that. That's fine. I'm just sharing with you ours. Next, since the change, we've had a handful of buyers reach out because of our reviews who said something to the effect of this, and I want you to pay attention to this because there's a nugget in here. If I might have to pay for the services of a buyer's agent now, I want to work with the best negotiators. Let me repeat that. We had a handful of buyers that have reached out to us since the change because our reviews online, all right, they can be on social media, they can be at Zillow, Realtor.com, I don't care where they are, I'm not giving a specific there, who said something to this effect. If I'm going to have to pay for your services now, I want to work with the best negotiators. All right, watch this. The best marketing solves a problem. I want everyone to write this down, okay? Because I'm going to give you, this is not just about scripts, this is also about tactics to win. I want you to write down, or I want you to ask yourself this question, write this down. Do my reviews convey that I'm a great negotiator? Do my reviews convey that I'm a great negotiator? Because watch, sellers and buyers, because sellers go to buy, they're going to be paying attention to that. If there's a chance they might have to pay for your services, they want to see what buyers are saying about their experience in working with you. Do your reviews convey that you're a great negotiator? There's a nugget there. Do something with that. The best marketing solves the problem. And then finally, again, since the change, we all survived the weekend and are ready to continue to kick butt this week, and you should too. We made it through. All right. We're a few days in for some of you. We're a month in for others. Some of you have been living in this world for even more than a month. Okay. So good news is we are very optimistic about the changes. I'm seeing a lot of good come out of this. All right. This is going to be a good thing for you. It's going to be a good thing for us. It's going to be a good thing for the industry. There is some gray area with some of the changes, and I'm going to do my best to help you understand those and give you some good dialogues. And also at the end of the day, I want you to know I am not your broker. All right. I'm not an attorney. So now I guess for some of you, if you're within one of my brokerages, fine, that's fair. But for 99% of you that are not, because I think we had just under 5,000 people register for this, I'm going to default to whatever your broker says is best. Now, is there maybe value in sharing our opinion with your brokerage? Absolutely. I encourage you to do so. But at the end of the day, every state, every jurisdiction, every market's going to look a little bit different than maybe what I'm proposing you do today. Okay, so for those of you that are in the Glover U Inner Circle Facebook group, and I would imagine that is many of you. You may remember last week I did a little poll. All right, now I did a poll in the Inner Circle, and I also reached out to 10 to 15 top broker owners from around the country to get a pulse of what's happening in every, and literally, I mean, I'm talking every part of the country, from the Northeast to the Southwest, to the Pacific Northwest, to down to Florida, to Texas, to the heartland of America, to the Midwest, everywhere. I've got people that I reached out to find out what the pulse is of what's going on in their area. But I actually have, aside from those conversations, I actually have some black and white numbers from the survey that we did within the Glover U Inner Circle. I'm going to call the survey a Harris poll, all right, because it was just within the people within the Glover U Inner Circle, which, by the way, I mean, you've got a lot of producers in there. You got a lot of brokers in there. You know, all companies are represented. If you're familiar with the polls that they do, you know, the presidential election, they oftentimes call them Harris polls, because they call everyone in the phone book with the last name of Harris, and that is the way to, and they just figure that that's the average population. Anyways, all right, it wasn't an actual Harris poll, but it could look like one. We did have over 500 submissions though. Okay, so we're not talking 50 people, we're not talking 20 people. We had 500 submissions, and here's what that survey showed: 89% of agents, brokerages, will be offering commissions and concessions. And this includes a set amount. 89% are going to be offering commissions and concessions, which part of that includes a set amount. 89%. Only 11% will not be offering commissions and concessions, and they will leave it to the negotiations. Now, we're not going to get into, you know, why NAR said this, or why Department of Justice said this, or, you know, interpreting. I'm not here to interpret. What I will tell you is what I know. And what I know is that NAR and the Department of Justice confirmed that it is absolutely legal for a seller to promote the fact that they're willing to pay buyer agent commissions, whether that be a specific amount or a unspecified amount outside of the MLS. That is confirmed. All right. I'm sure there's great brokerages and great leaders out there that regardless of what the NAR and Department of Justice say, who disagree with that. And that's okay. They can take that position. And kudos to them if their vision is showing something else. Kudos to them if they're predicting that maybe that's going to go away. Then they're going to be, first to market, I guess. But right now, NAR, the Department of Justice, is saying you can specifically offer a set amount or an unspecified amount outside of the MLS. And according to the survey, it sounds like 89% of agents and brokerages will be doing that. My concern for the 11% who will not be doing that is that may put you at a bit of a disadvantage. And so when I look at if 89% are going to be doing that, 11% will not, then that you may have a little bit of an uphill battle in relation to your conversations with clients and other agents in your market. All right. I'm not projecting that that's necessarily going to be a bad thing for you. I just know that might as well just call it 90% of every listing out there is going to be offering a commission, a set amount outside of the MLS or a concession. That's going to make it harder for the other 10% perhaps to compete. And that's something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Now, is it possible that these numbers may shift? Absolutely. It may come down to 80-20, might be 70-30, might be 60-40. That's where it is right now. And I'm not surprised to see that right now because right now it's brand new. So, people don't like change. So therefore it's not surprising when I saw these numbers, it wasn't surprising because this is really not changing a whole lot. Now, they have said that you can offer commissions outside of the MLS, and basically 90% of people are saying, we're going to do that. Whether you offer a set amount or not, that's up to you. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. So my concern with the above is, again, if I'm in one of these markets where 90% of the sellers are offering buyer agent commissions and they're specifically stating the amount outside of the MLS, then it may cause a buyer to say on the 10% that are not offering a commission, well, that means it might cost me more to buy that property. And if those buyers are aware of the ones that are offering and the ones that are not, because they saw it on a sign rider or, they saw it, in an email blast or a text message or whatever, website you use to communicate commissions, that might cause those buyers to say, you know what, I'm not even going to go look at that house. Again, I'm not saying the agents are suggesting that. I'm saying the buyers themselves may say, I don't want to see that home because I don't want to have to pay an agent. Again, that's my concern with that. It's a little early to tell how often that's going to happen or how much that's going to impact. All right. Buyers agents, you can't do that anyways. That's called steering. That's illegal. But I'm not talking about the agents. I'm talking about the buyers who may say, you know what, I don't want to mess with that seller if they're not going to be willing to give me concessions, or if they're not willing to pay my agent, I don't even want to get into negotiations with that knucklehead. You may give off the presentation that maybe you're a shrewd negotiator, and that might scare a buyer away. Okay, here's what else the survey told us. Just over half, 51% of the MLSs in the country do allow promotion of concessions. Over half, 51%. Now, by the way, I think this question in the survey may have been a little confusing because I believe it's probably even more than half. And let me explain to you. I believe that there's MLSs like ours that are not only have a category that says concessions Y or N, meaning yes or no, it has an amount. So concessions Y or N, and then an amount that you can put in there. Now that's a field that's built into our MLS. That, of course, is legal. The Department of Justice and NAR has said that's legal. Not all MLSs are taking that stand. There's MLSs out there that perhaps maybe to protect themselves or whatever, they're not doing that. However, they haven't actually come out and said that you can't put it in through the agent remarks or the public remarks. And so if your MLS has not come out and said, nope, you cannot offer concessions anywhere in the MLS, then that means then if there's not a drop down for it, you absolutely legally can put it in the remarks, the public and the agent remarks. NAR says that's okay. Department of Justice says that that's okay. Now, if your brokerage says otherwise, then listen to what your brokerage says. I'm just reporting on what we're doing in relation to what we're allowed to do and what the Department of Justice and NAR says is okay. So over half of the MLSs do allow the offering of concessions. And where I said I think that the number's probably even higher is because I believe that some of the people that voted for this one are, or that maybe voted no on this one, I'm sorry, meaning the other 49%, are not aware that you can put it into the remarks. Just because your MLS doesn't have a drop down for it doesn't mean that you can't put it into the remarks. So we'll call it, hey, the numbers are the numbers. It's 51%. That's still the majority that allow concessions. You're going to see why I talk about those in our scripts in just a bit. Okay, so I wanted to share with you, kind of update you on where we're at in relation to some of the changes. Now let's jump in. So if you would do me a favor in your workbook, everyone should have a workbook. If you don't, they'll probably drop in the chat one more time for you. I want you to turn to page 14 in your workbook, please. And I would make sure you get this workbook printed out. I would make sure that you share this with maybe other agents in your office, other agents in your team. This has literally every single question a buyer or seller could ask you. Now, some of these are repeat or they have been updated since 1.0. Again, I'm talking about the video and the scripts that were released back in March. I'm not going to touch base on the ones that I already shared with you. You're all adults. You can understand we have them there in writing. All right. So for instance, on page 14, the quick one-liner and the full response, that is a very, what I would call NAR, Department of Justice safe response based on what we know is you're allowed to say and our interpretation of the changes. All right. We already released that back in March. And so you probably already have a copy of those. Many of you have already been using these in your dialogues. There's a workbook in the comments if you need them again. So do me a favor, turn to page 15. All right. I'm going to share with you. Now, this is our position. Now, when I say our position, this is Glover U's position. This is not necessarily the position of any one particular brokerage. This is my personal position as it relates to the NAR settlement. And this is specifically if your brokerage allows offering seller concessions or buyer agent commissions outside of the MLS. Okay. Number one, offering buyer concessions or buyer agent commissions, again, I'm on page 15, will entice buyers to want to make an offer on a listing and may choose a listing over one not offering either. This has been a practice for decades, and I don't see buyer behavior changing on this one anytime soon. NAR, Department of Justice, says this is okay to do so. All right. If your brokerage says it's not, that's up to them. And that's something that you would want to have a discussion with them on. However, this is something that's been around for decades. This is something that has been a benefit to buyers to, of course, not have to pay their agents. So you're going to have buyers that say, well, wait a minute, this guy's offering concessions. This guy's not. No matter what, right out of the gate, if I go make an offer on that listing, I'm going to have to pay more. Let's go make an offer on this one. Calling a spade a spade. That's how buyers are going to think. That's number one. Number two, offering buyer concessions or buyer agent commissions may cause a buyer who couldn't otherwise afford the cost to close on a home to now consider one, thus driving more traffic to the listing. More traffic equals more offers equals more money or better terms. Again, offering concessions. We're not talking about enticing buyer's agents, all right? This is not what I'm saying. This is enticing buyers. Buyers who are scraping to pay their closing costs are going to say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, please do me a favor. Don't show me any listings that are not offering concessions or buyer agent commissions outside of the MLS. Number three, offering buyer concessions or buyer agent commissions shows the buyer that you are a flexible and reasonable seller to work with. Buyers may enter negotiations on a property already promoting them as a fair seller to deal with. So let's not be too tough on them. Versus a seller who starts the negotiation off by offering nothing, potentially causing a buyer to take the mindset of, well, if they're going to be cheap, then let's go in low. Think about the psychology there. And again, whether you're offering a set amount or not, this doesn't matter. This applies to a set amount or not. Okay. You have a listing that's offering concessions or commissions, yes or no. Forget about the amount for a second. As a buyer, I may say, this one's willing to offer, this one's not. I think we're going to be in a better situation with this seller than that seller. Let's go make another offer on that one. You cannot argue this stuff. Number four, offering buyer concessions or buyer agent commission shows that if there are issues with the home or worse, an appraisal issue, the seller may be fair and reasonable in working with them after an offer is accepted, since they were from the beginning by offer the concessions or commissions up front. Again, since we deal with so many appraisal issues, inspection issues, you might tell me as a buyer, if you're not willing to pay me a concession as a buyer, you're not willing to pay my agent, who are you going to be as a seller in the negotiations when your appraisal comes in low? You're already showing me that you're not willing to be flexible. I might not feel comfortable making an offer on your house, something that could hurt a seller. Again, these are all buyer decisions until we get to the fifth one. Okay, this is not legal, just so we're clear. You cannot steer based on commissions offered. That's the whole spirit of this change. And you know, and I know there are people in every single marketplace who are going to bend the rules or twist things. And so I'm not endorsing this. I'm just pointing out the facts of what could happen. So it says there, however, there are still some agents out there that may hide listings that are not offering concessions or buyer agent commissions, or at a minimum, deter buyers from these properties by pointing out the negatives right away, by saying things such as, well, this property is way too close to the main road. The resale would be tough. Or even more direct, hey, the seller's not offering concessions to help you with your closing costs, and therefore there will be a jerk during the negotiations. Again, I don't agree with any of that. We don't practice that. However, we know it does happen. So therefore, it's a reality. And so it's something that I wanted to make sure I put in writing for you to understand. So what's the lesson here? Okay. This is my belief. You may not agree with it. Your brokerage may not agree with it. And that's okay. I believe it's possible that things may change and I may have to change my tune on this. I also believe it's possible that the others may have to change their tune on what they said in the beginning, because things can always change. So here's the lesson. Listing agents should do everything they can to help the seller understand the value of offering concessions up front if it's allowed. Why would I want to offer concessions up front if it's allowed? Well, because it's a marketing tool. We'll get to that. Or at a minimum, a buyer agent commission communicated via other means. It's truly the best interest of the seller and is a good thing for the industry. The naysayers on the next page on this topic will say that it hurts the seller's negotiating power because you're showing the buyer and seller's cards. And my response to that is I would rather have the power of a marketing tool than the power of a negotiation tool that the buyer is probably going to ask for anyways, which deems that tool less valuable. So there's a lot of people saying, well, why would you want to show their cards? Why would you want to give away their commission? Why would you want to do that on the front end? The nature of what we're seeing and what we predicted we would see is everyone's going to be asking for them. So if we'll just say nearly everyone, because I can't say everyone, if nearly everyone is asking for buyer agent concessions, buyer concessions or buyer agent commissions, and since that's going to show up in the purchase agreement, and you're most likely, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, going to have to pay something towards the buyer to help them with their closing costs or the concessions. Since you're going to be doing it anyways, why don't we promote the fact that you're willing to so we can use it as a marketing tool? Okay, next, the new compensation model to a seller if seller concessions are allowed in your MLS. By the way, this exact script right here is what we're using today. This exact script is actually what we've been using since the 17th of July, because since the 17th of July, our MLS has said that concessions are allowed. So you may have heard there's been some changes in the way agents get paid. You're probably familiar with the old way it worked. You paid somewhere around blank to a list agent, and that agent split their commission with the buyer's agent. Does that sound familiar? Well, today, while commissions have always been negotiable, the amount you pay hasn't changed much, even though costs for nearly every good and service have increased. By the way, I find that interesting. If you actually read about this actual lawsuit and this settlement, it's with 1,000% certainty their goal to get commissions down, which I find interesting considering the cost for everything else has gone up. Anyways, we don't need to get into politics. It's how it's paid that has changed. So here's how it works now. We charge blank on the list side, and we recommend you offer blank and concessions to the buyer to put towards their closing costs, which may include paying their agent. Simple script. We charge blank on the list side. It's so nice to be able to go on appointment today and say, here's what we charge on the list side. And by the way, we recommend you offer blank and concessions to the buyer to put towards their closing costs, which may include paying their agent. We can market that. By doing so, we can remain competitive and attract all of the buyers and their agents to your home by promoting these concessions to the buyer to use towards their closing costs in the MLS. Does that make sense? So in essence, the amount is a total of blank, and there's now a portion that goes to the buyer as a concession so they can turn around and use that to pay their agent and or some of their mortgage costs. Does that make sense? Every single appointment I'm going on today, that's how I'm presenting it. I'm making sure the sellers know that they have a choice. They don't have to offer out anything on concessions. And it very much helps my presentation when I can show them what their competition is doing, and the competition is offering concessions. Now, what if you have a MLS, or I'm sorry, what if you have a situation where you are allowed to offer seller concessions or buyer agent commissions, but you're not able to promote the specific amount? Okay, let me scroll down. I'm on page 17, where let's see. Okay, here we go. The very last paragraph under the compensation model, under seller presentation. By selecting yes, you are willing to offer concession buyer agent commissions. We can promote that to all of the agents and buyers who may have an interest in your home. And when they submit their offers, they will ask for an amount to help them cover their closing costs, which may include paying their agent. While I can't predict what they will ask for, I do want to prepare you for the amount that we've been seeing so far in our brokerage since the change. And that amount has ranged anywhere from blank to blank. So this is for those of you that cannot put a specific amount. This is for those of you where your brokerages have come out and said, oh yeah, you can suggest, offering buyer agent commissions outside of the MLS. You can suggest the seller to offer concessions. You just can't put a specific amount. There's your script for it. Next, the new compensation model to a seller if seller concessions are not allowed in the MLS and or are not common in your marketplace. So now we're just talking about buyer agent commissions in this particular case. Again, I'm on the bottom of page 17. Okay, the first couple sentences there are the same as the last one, so I don't need to repeat those. Go ahead and turn to page 18. So here's how it works now. Okay, right there on the top of page 18. We charge blank on the list side, and we recommend you offer blank in buyer agent compensation. And you have the option to offer it now, or you can wait until time of offer to negotiate that. So in other words, instead of the total commission going to the listing broker and then the listing broker promoting usually half of that amount to the buyer broker commission is now dictated by the seller. And although we can't use the MLS to promote it, we are able to use other mediums to do so. This is perfectly legal. NAR, Department of Justice, have said this is absolutely a legal way. While you have the choice of determining that now and offering out whatever amount you want to the buyer broker so their clients won't have a drastic increase in their costs, under the new rule, we are not able to use the MLS to promote it. Instead, we will use email, text, social media, and any other internet site that does not receive a feed from the MLS to promote the existence of the buyer agent commission you are offering. All right. I got a little technical there, but I did so because I want to make sure you're doing everything legal and above board. Would you like me to share with you what the competition is offering so we can remain competitive? Or would you prefer to wait until we receive an offer? There we go. They want to negotiate at time of offer? Fine. Are we going to have some sellers that say, yeah, we don't want to offer anything? Absolutely. They have that choice. And if they're going to be the minority, they're going to be the lower amount of listings out there, then that might put them at a position of weakness in terms of entertaining offers and getting offers from buyers. And of course, show examples if possible. Well, what are the benefits of waiting until we receive an offer, and why wouldn't I choose that option? Well, you most certainly can, and since most buyers aren't used to paying buyer agent commissions, most offers we are seeing are asking for those to be covered by the seller. So since there's a high probability covered by the seller, since, I don't know why that so's in there, that's a typo, sorry. Since there's a high probability you're going to be paying them anyways. So if you wait to negotiate them and we're not able to promote any sort of concession commission, you lose all of the marketing power that offering a commission or concessions, depending on what's allowed, all of the marketing power that offering a commission gives you when buyers and their agents are considering what homes to look at and make offers on. Does that make sense? Again, this is driven by the buyers, agents. You cannot steer a buyer client away based on commission being offered. This is a buyer telling their agent, we want to see that house or we don't want to see that house. We want to see that house because it looks like they're flexible and willing to work with us on our costs. We don't want to see that house because it looks like they're not. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you don't offer anything, you may have a buyer that tells their agent they don't want to see your home. Very true. You see the note there for us agents at the bottom. Okay, number 19. All right, well, what do I pay you and what do I pay the buyer's agent? Okay, we covered this in 1.0, so I'm not going to cover that one again. Can I negotiate to pay you less? I heard it's negotiable. We covered that in the NAR settlement change 1.0, so I'm not going to cover that again. That's on page 19. Page 20. What if I don't want to offer out anything to the buyer agent? Okay, this is a new one. You can most certainly do that. And since most offers that are written today are asking for closing cost help for the buyers, you'll most likely wind up paying it anyways. And you won't get to take advantage of the marketing power that promoting that you're offering concessions will give you. Does that make sense? Okay. What if there is no buyer's agent? This is a new one that we added. All right. You can negotiate up front with the seller what the cost is if they end up handling both sides of the transaction. That has not changed. In fact, most of you have been doing that anyways. Most of you have been giving a break to sellers if you end up representing both sides of the transaction. You can still do that. Okay. And I gave you the language for how to do that. Go ahead and turn the page. So you get paid, I'm on page 21. So you get paid more if there's no agent? Well, yes, listen, the amount you pay me to list, market, and sell and ultimately close your property does not change. However, the amount you pay in buyer commissions, concessions will be reduced to blank. These concessions will go to the buyer to use towards their closing costs, which includes our brokerage fees to handle the buy side of the transaction. This creates a win-win scenario because the buyers could secure an agent to represent them and ask for more to cover their costs. In other words, they could go elsewhere and it could cost you more because they're going to ask in their offer for you to cover that agent's commission. Well, in this particular case, if I'm lowering it to handle both sides of the transaction, you win. So instead, my brokerage and I work for less to create a win-win for all parties involved, which includes putting more money in your pocket. Does that sound good? Okay, next. Well, what happens if I pay your fee? This is a real common one. I'll be very clear on this one. What happens if I pay your fee? This is probably the biggest objection that you're going to receive that is going to be one of the harder ones to overcome. I'm on page 21 at the bottom. What if I pay your fee to list my home and I offer a buyer agent incentive or concession to a buyer, and when I go to purchase, the seller does not offer a concession or agree to pay a portion of your commission? Does that mean I will be paying commission 3 times? Think about it for a second. Jeff, you're charging me blank and you're suggesting I offer blank. So I understand that, and I agree with that. I'm bought in on that. And then, but you're saying it's an option because I'm letting them know it's an option. It's not, they have a choice. So then if I go to buy, since those sellers also have an option, what if I want to buy a house that is not offering a concession or a buyer agent commission? Does that mean I'm going to have to pay it once, twice, 3 times? Wait a minute, that's three. That could be a high percentage amount. So that's an understandable concern. And I may be wondering that as well if I'm in your shoes. By the way, I've gotten this a few times as well. And what I can tell you is that it's my job to negotiate as much of my buyer agent fee as possible to be covered by the seller. And if they do not agree to that, you do not have to buy their home. Furthermore, if we do find ourselves in a situation like that, I will work with you on the buyer side commission so that you are minimal to nothing out of pocket on another commission. Fair enough? And then, of course, be prepared to put that in writing. So what am I saying? What are you saying there, Jeff? Well, what I'm saying is if I cannot, okay, if I help them understand the value in offering concessions or offering a buyer agent commission, and they end up offering a buyer agent concession or commission, and they end up paying me as a listing agent or listing brokerage, and they go out and buy with me, and I cannot get that seller to work with me on a concession or a buyer agent commission, then what I'm saying there is I am willing to reduce my fee on that side to keep these guys happy. Because at the end of the day, I'm not doing this for that deal anyways. I'm doing it for future business. Now, I'm hopeful that this isn't going to happen very often because, again, as I mentioned, 89% are saying they're going to offer buyer agent concessions or commissions. So 1 out of 10, maybe. And and by the way, the 11% that said, no, we're not going to be offering, that doesn't mean I still can't negotiate that. So that is how I would handle that one with a seller who's concerned about moving forward with you. All right. And then be prepared to put that in writing. Go ahead and turn the page. All right. Let's switch to buyers. Now, Jeff, how are you guys getting buyers to like set appointments and sign agreements with you? Okay. Well, first things first, I want everyone to write this down. I want you to write down text scripts, SCRIPTS, to 55444. So just write down scripts and 55444. 5 5, so 2 5s, 3 4s. We have uploaded our latest buyer appointment setting script, our latest buyer pre-qual script, all current and taking in consideration the NAR changes. That's how you get them. All right. For those of you that downloaded the Glover app, I mentioned there's going to be a resource that I'm going to share at the end. Sit tight for that. It's coming. But the conversation that I'm having with buyers prior to meeting with them is in our new script book. All right. We just released that. So you may or may not have heard, again, I'm on 22. Agents are now required to have signed agreements with buyers prior to opening a lockbox to show you a home. Because we have not met yet, I would never expect you to enter into an agreement with me this early in the process. I mean, put yourselves in their shoes, right? You wouldn't either. So I'm going to have you sign what's called a blank. All right. There's 50 different names for it. So whatever yours is called. Okay. Ours is a buyer agent agreement, but it's a one property buyer agent agreement. In other words, we're just putting one address in there to start. And I know that it only applies to this showing and does not lock you in to using me for anything related to your real estate purchase outside of this showing. I will email it to you to review and we connect prior for me to walk you through it. Does that sound good? Now watch. Are you going to get some resistance to this? Without question, you're going to get some resistance. And they're going to call someone else. And the other person is going to tell them the same thing. And they're either going to come back to you or they're not. But you're going to be on the receiving end of this too, because they're going to call someone else to see a house. That person's going to give them a similar script to this, and they're going to want a second opinion. So they're going to call you, you're going to say this script, and they're going to say, that must be just the way it is now. And they're going to work with you instead of that other agent. So you understand you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, especially early on while people are adapting to this. But this is a very fair, pleasant way to present it. And of course, as your relationship grows with them, you can turn this into a full-blown buyer contract or buyer agreement, but not to set up the first showing. They're not going to enter into an exclusive agreement with you if they've never met you. All right. So then now we've had the meeting. Now we've had the showing. Now I've went through my buyer consultation. How do I get them to understand that they may have to pay me? Well, imagine we're at the end of the buyer consultation. Based on everything we've covered today, which, by the way, our new listing presentation and buyer consultation, we just put those, I believe those are for sale on the website. You can get those. Listen, we give away so much for free. Every now and again, we got to try to make a buck here and there. So yes, our new listing presentation, our buyer consultation are on the website. They're like $95 or something like that. Anyways, you can go get that if you want to check it out. So based on everything we've covered today, do you feel I can help you secure the right home in a reasonable time frame? The answer is going to be yes to that. Perfect. Then you're probably wondering what all of this is going to cost you. The good news is that this and everything I do to help buyers secure homes may cost you nothing at all. And here's how. Part of my job is to negotiate the best deal for you. And as part of those negotiations, I'm going to ask the seller to contribute closing cost concessions, which could cover some or all of my blank fee. The even better news is you don't have to pay me anything till we're sitting around the closing table and I'm giving you your new set of keys. Sound good? Cue the objections. All right. Because you're going to have some that say, yeah, we've heard that. It makes sense, whatever. And then you're going to have some that say, well, wait, does this mean I have to pay you now? Okay, on page 23, I've already covered this one in our settlement 1.0, so I'm not going to review that with you again. You have that. What if I can't afford it? You have that as well. Or if you're seeing this for the first time, there you go. Go ahead and turn the page. Sounds like I'll save money if I work with a listing agent. We've been hearing that anyways. I'll just hire an attorney to represent me. Again, I've answered both of these for you when we did the NAR webinar back in March. Turn the page. What if I don't want to sign an agreement to work with you yet? Well, totally understand. We just met. And if you prefer, we can work in a non-exclusive capacity until we feel comfortable with one another. So as long as you're aware of the way commissions work today and that you would be responsible for your side of the commission if we are unable to get a seller to cover them for you, should you purchase any of the homes we show you. Does that sound good? And then, of course, they will still need to sign a document showing what you charge should they buy from you, regardless of whether it's got a time, start date, end date, or address on it. They need to acknowledge what the cost is for your services. And they need to acknowledge that with a signature. So you might be saying, well, Jeff, I might waste a lot of time with buyers if I'm doing these one-party agreements or these non-exclusive agreements. Okay, you're wasting time with buyers today. What's different? Most of you show homes to buyers today without a contract. So now that they have to sign a contract and you're taking a little bit of a risk by continuing to show them homes, okay, fine. They could go with someone else, but they can go with someone else today. I don't care. I know that if I get the face-to-face, I'm going to create a relationship and build a rapport and show them my value, and they're going to want to work with me. Okay. Jeff, I've heard there are no cost agreements to see homes. Do you honor that as well? Of course, it will never cost you anything to view homes with us, as you only pay for an agent's services at closing. And you may not have to pay anything at all. May I explain? Part of my job? Boom, there's that same script for you again. So as you know, there's a ton of moving parts, and although these are the dialogues we are using, right, should be now, our scripts may be very fluid for now while this is evolving. Before you use any of our scripts or dialogues, we recommend you check with your broker to confirm they're acceptable in your jurisdiction. For the latest, be sure you're signed up for the daily message. There it is again. And keep an eye on gloveru.com. Okay, now I promised you I was going to share some tactics as well. So you have the scripts, all right? So do what you got to do with those. I want you to turn to a clean sheet of paper because I got 9 ways to win right now. Okay, some of you guys have heard a few of these before. Some of them are brand new. So just turn to the next page, okay? And again, those are the NAR settlement dialogues. We completed those. You have those. Do what you want with them. So 9 tactics to win. How do I win, Jeff? How do I win with these changes? Like, how does it seem like you guys are moving forward and taking listings? I mean, I just looked at our listings and sales board from the weekend. We had a great weekend. So how are we doing that? Well, let me share with you what we're doing now, what we have been doing. Watch. Number 1, write these down. 9 tactics to win. Number 1, if you want to get good at what I just presented, then I suggest you do what our team has been doing for the last 90 days. You understand, we've been writing. Number 1 is write, chant, and role play these scripts, the same scripts in this workbook. Write, chant, and role play them once a day until they're committed to memory. We've been doing it for the last 90 days. We've been writing, we've been chanting, we've been role playing. No different than when you had to learn a listing presentation or buyer consultation. Number 2, I want you to follow our 2-to-1 document. Follow our 2-to-1 document. I'll explain what that is in a second. So I predicted back in March that we're going to see an increase in buyer leads to listing agents, and we're going to see an increase in traffic and open houses. Both of those are happening. Would you get that? Both of those are happening. We're seeing an increase in leads to listing agents. We've already seen that. We're seeing an increase in traffic at our open houses. Buyers wishing to avoid paying a commission and maybe going right to a listing agent. So therefore, we created a document. It's called the 2-to-1 document. You can get it in the gloveru app. They just added it. It's free. It's how to get 2 sales for every listing you take. All right. Every single listing we take, we follow this document. It's in the gloveru app. It's our newest resource. It's in there. All right. That's called the 2-to-1 document. Follow that. That's number 2. Number 3, I want you to increase the amount of your open houses immediately. I don't care if you're increasing the count or increasing the hours. You're going to get more buyers in front of you by increasing the amount of your open houses. This is something we're making a conscious effort of doing right now. That's number 3. Number 4, I want you to start sharing your buyer success stories more often on social media. You've been used to sharing seller success stories. I want you to share buyer success stories. I want you to share the following, okay? Under number 5, start tracking your DOS. Stands for days out shopping. Meaning from the time you meet a buyer till the time they get an offer accepted. What is your average DOS? Okay, no different than with a seller. We brag about our days on market. Why don't we brag about our days out shopping with buyers? I want you to track your list price to net sales price ratio for buyers. Okay, because when a buyer asks you what your fees are and you help them understand that the average list price to sales price ratio in your market is 99% and the buyers that buy with you are 96%, well, that might cover your entire fee. Start tracking your list price to net sales price ratio. Next, I want you to start promoting and tracking how often you win in multiple offer situations. This is a tool. This is a marketing tool. The best marketing solves a problem. If you're telling the world how often you win in multiple offer situations, then in essence, what you're doing is you're building your value. When you build your value, more people want to work with you and pay you what you're worth. Next, I want you to start sharing success stories with buyers who got all their fees paid for by sellers. That's right. You're going to start having this. You're going to have buyers you work with. Hey, meet my buyer, Amy and Bob. Congratulations. They just bought a home and didn't have to pay a dime. Their entire costs were covered by the seller due to my negotiations. Start sharing those success stories. Buyers are fearful that they're going to have to pay you now, and some are going to have to pay some. We know that. You start sharing your success stories, and buyers that are not having to pay you because the sellers are covering their costs or giving them concessions to turn around and pay you, Those will be great success stories, which will help you attract other buyers. Start sharing your offers written to offers accepted ratio. Pay attention to how many offers you write versus how many are accepted. That tells me you're a good negotiator as a buyer. That tells me I've got a great chance of getting my offer accepted by working with you, and I might be okay with paying a fee if I have a good chance of getting my offer accepted. All of that was under number 5. Number 4 was start sharing your buyer success stories. Number 5 is start tracking your days out shopping. List price to net sales price ratio, multiple offers won, success in getting commissions covered, offers written to offers accepted. Number 6, if you haven't started working them yet, I've been sharing this since March. Absolutely, we are seeing an uptick in for sale by owners in almost every market we have coaching clients in. I think we have today over 600 coaching clients, so pretty much every major market's probably covered. We are seeing an uptick in for sale by owners. Why? Because for sale by owners believe that commissions being removed from the MLS have leveled the playing field, which gives them more confidence to enter the market. We haven't seen an increase in expireds yet, but give it 30 to 60 days. We will. Why? Well, because before, listings didn't sell because of price or condition. Now they won't sell because of price, condition, and concessions or buyer agent commissions offered. It's going to be a factor in whether a listing sells or not. So you're going to see an increase of expireds. Number 7, I want you to go back and update your buyer plan of action again. I shared this with most of you who attended our event this summer. I shared with you our entire plan of action. By the way, for those of you that are purchasing our buyer presentation, all the materials are included. Take ours, copy it, do whatever you want with it, but you have an opportunity to go back and update it again. Why am I suggesting you update it again? Because I want you to start including your success stories into your buyer plan of action. If I'm meeting with you as a buyer in a buyer consultation and I share with you all the success stories that I have with buyers since what we'll call post-NAR settlement, that I might feel more comfortable when you tell me that you may or may not have to pay me, or I may feel more comfortable as a buyer when you tell me that in all of these cases, you were able to get the commissions covered, or you're able to negotiate concessions for the buyer to go ahead and pay their agent. Give me proof, and I want you to add that to your buyer plan of action. That's number 7. Number 8, I want you to continue following the ALM model. Continue following the ALM model. Appointment first, location second, motivation third. Number 1 mistake agents are making right now is they're bringing up the NAR settlement change on their initial call with the buyer. Don't do that. You'll confuse them. You'll scare them. You'll cause them to call somebody else. Instead, set the appointment like normal. Let them know that you'll be calling back to confirm after you speak to the seller. When you call back to confirm the appointment after you speak to the seller or the seller's agent, after you speak to the seller's agent to get their appointment set, that's when you're going to let them know about the change. That's when you're going to let them know about whatever agreement that is. ALM, appointment first, location second, motivation third. Do not bring up anything in relation to commissions during your initial call with buyers. You will scare them. Now, we do have to bring up the agreement prior to the showing, but don't bring that up on the first call. Bring that up on your second call, your confirmation call, whatever. Just set the appointment. Keep following that model. That's number 8. And then finally, number 9, I want you to introduce a buyer pre-qualification step in your process. I want you to introduce a buyer pre-qualification step in your process. The good news is you have access to ours. If you text the word scripts to 55444, we created a new buyer pre-qual script. Use it moving forward. That's the script you use when you call back to confirm the appointment. When you set the appointment, you do what you've been doing. Don't change a thing when you set the appointment. When you call back to confirm, I want you to use that script. You have access to it. It's in our scripts. It's in our free resources. It's been updated. Take advantage of that. Okay. Now, if you've been on, by the way, did you guys get value from today's session? If you got value, go ahead and drop a heck yeah or a for sure. You know, if you guys want me to keep doing these, I don't want to keep talking about the NAR settlement, but listen, if you guys are getting value from these discussions, I want to keep giving you free content. Okay. So we've only been together now for not even 75 minutes. We've been together for about 60 minutes. And I want to share with you 2 ways you can get a little bit more value. Number 1, do me a favor, turn to page 29 in your workbook. Thank you, guys. That's really cool. That's really awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really nice. Thank you for all the kind words. For those of you that are listening to this on the podcast later, everyone in the chat is saying, heck yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. And for those of you watching the YouTube, go ahead and drop that in the YouTube in the chat if you got some value today. Okay. So on page 29, for those of you that are leading teams or brokerages, I wouldn't be doing my job if I did not let you know about this. It's November 5th through the 7th in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. We'll be working with team leads, brokers, owners across the country to help them recruit, train, retain, everything as it relates to leading a team, leading a brokerage. Okay, you guys, I get it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So on page 29, I want to make sure you know if you're leading a brokerage or leading a team, check it out. Not everyone gets in this room. All right. So we're one of the few companies as it relates to this particular event. This is the lead up event only, where you are pre-screened to get in this room. So you have to apply to be in this room. Why do we do that? We do that to keep the conversations high. So take advantage of that. All right. Do me a favor. Turn to page. I don't even know if there's a number. It's the second to last page in your workbook there. We announced our new location. In fact, just go to the last page there. There it is. It says Thrive in 25, January 21st through the 24th. For those of you that are familiar, we strongly believe in own the morning, win the day. We've been teaching that to agents for years. Not only have we been teaching it as a tactic, but we went out and got the guy that wrote the book on it, Admiral William McRaven. So check it out. This is what we're going to be doing this January 21st through the 24th. I believe we have a video to show you what we're going to be doing. What does it take to be number one? To be the best? It doesn't take trying your best. It doesn't take doing the best you can. In fact, the most harmful lie you've been told is that if you try your best, you'll reach your potential. In reality, to be the best, you have to beat the best. And unfortunately, for my competition, my potential is a moving target. Every day I get better, and every day I push my potential further from reach. So that way our attendees and our clients can live their most unreal life. My message to you is this: stop using your best as an excuse to fail. You can always do more. You can always get better. Don't downgrade your vision to fit your reality. Elevate your skills, elevate your presentation, elevate your lead generation, elevate your actions, and most of all, elevate your conviction to fit your unreal life. A life so amazing that it's almost unbelievable. Surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. Put yourself on the path to your unreal life and never stop moving forward. I invite you to join us at this January's Live Unreal Summit in Scottsdale, Arizona at the beautiful Westin Kierland Resort. We're going to be spending 3.5 days covering everything you need to know and do to win with the changes we've experienced. Everything from one-on-one interviews, breakout sessions, keynote speakers. Oh, don't forget, we get to have some fun too. Everything from golf, shopping, dining, spa, hiking, welcome receptions, everything is on site.
Jeff Glover is the best of the best in helping us have the scripts that we need in order to convert our clients and grow our business bigger than we even dreamed possible.
The amount of actionable takeaways I actually get is massive in comparison to other real estate events I attend.
Well, some of the other events that I've been to in the past, it always seems like what's on stage is for show and not for dough. And what Jeff puts on stage is what's going to actually help you make money and be successful in a difficult and challenging market.
The energy is here, the support is here, and honestly, the track record is here.
If you want to win in 2025, you need to be in this room. We'll see you this January.
So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. And one of my young soldiers comes up to me and he says, "Hey, sir, your speech is going viral." Well, I didn't know what the hell that was. I'm thinking, is that a bad thing? I mean, a virus is spreading? What's going on?
My next guest is a retired four-star admiral and former commander of all U.S. Special Operation Forces worldwide. His new book is called Sea Stories. Please welcome Admiral Bill McRaven.
When I came in, the first meeting, I think, was in March. And the process allowed us to go from the macro, here are the options we're looking at, down to the micro, which was, okay, we're going to go with the raid. And then you asked all the right questions, the hard questions. But to me, it didn't end there. The process was mission completion, bin Laden captured or dead, and the boys back home safely.
After the raid against bin Laden, the entire world learned about your extraordinary leadership. Tonight, I want to thank you on a personal level for your discipline, professionalism, and patriotism, which I've seen myself.
There you have it. So we'll be getting together January 21st to the 24th. I wanted you guys to be one of the first to know. Take advantage of the early bird pricing. Unlike a lot of events today, $699, $799, $1,000, $1,200. Your price, $399 for, you can see the agenda there in the second to last page, 3.5 days, breakout sessions, one-on-one interviews, obviously keynote speakers. And we're going to be sharing our plan, our business plan to win in 2025, not just with these changes, because by then, you know, it'll be old news, but of course we'll have some best practices. But our job at Glover U is to prepare everyone to win in 2025, thrive in 25. That's our mission. And I thank you all so much for joining me during today's session, whether you're watching it live. Of course, some of you are going to be listening or watching the replay, which will be sent out to everyone. Hopefully you got a chance to download the workbook. It's got all the scripts in there. We'll drop that in the comments as well. And everyone else, I'll look forward to seeing you this fall at our lead up event on the West Coast, or certainly no later than January for the Live Unreal Summit. Let's go kick some butt out there, and good luck. See you guys.